I think you can start, yeah.
So we're husband and wife. We have a little daughter, and she's part of the reason why we started Stream of Hopes. Becoming a parent for both of us have changed how we perceive kids and how we take kids' issues way more to heart than we did before. And so Stream of Hopes, both of us got really involved with Future of Ukraine when I found a post on Facebook about a little girl. Her name is Nadiyka, and it was basically reaching out from Future of Ukraine, reaching out to Ukrainian diaspora everywhere, asking for money to send this little kid for surgery outside of Ukraine, because in Ukraine the doctors have basically given up on her. Her mom was told to put her down when the little baby was born. It sounds kind of harsh.
She was born with a whole bunch of medical issues. She had a hernia in her spine. Her legs were kind of growing perpendicular to her body. A whole bunch of, I think she had, I'm not
spina
sure.
Bifida
Spina bifida.
And hydrocephalus, a whole list of different problems. And so the doctors, instead of helping, just said, well, there's no way we can help. So just put her to sleep.
Yeah.
And you can continue on with your life. But luckily, Mom met Marta, who runs Future of Ukraine. And Marta said, no, we're actually going to help you out. And we'll find a way to put your kid on her feet so she will run and she will have a normal life. And so she reached out to a huge Facebook community asking to donate money as much as anyone can. And through Facebook, they've collected over 30,000 euros. And they sent Nadiyka to Italy, where she underwent a bunch of surgeries. And she's 4 months younger than our daughter, so we've been kind of following her development. And she will walk.
They straightened her legs out. They fixed her hernia. She will have a fully functioning, life.
She's
as
not
a kid.
out of the woods yet, so there's still a lot of work to be done. But she will have a life rather than being tossed to the side like a lot of times happens in Ukraine, where kids with disabilities are just being given up on.
Yeah, so we started learning. We very quickly started becoming involved as a family. It was just us. It was, we wanted to take an initiative, and because we had a daughter at that time, we're like, we can't not help. And so, putting a little bit of the money aside from our paychecks, whatever Victoria, our daughter, was growing out of, we just kind of sent it off to them. And very quickly, this was like in almost a year and a half ago. March of last year. So we were doing this just as a family. And then people in Saskatoon started hearing about something that we were doing like that. And they're like, oh, can we join? Can we, maybe give you some of our clothes, or maybe we can buy something? So we're like, sure, let's send it off as a group, as a bigger group. And so people started joining. And then it was January of this year. Olesya's like, we were sitting one of the evenings, and we were at the point where we were getting, hundreds of kilograms worth of stuff. We were sitting, and Olesya's like, well, why don't we form a group, like call ourselves something official? It's not, because it wasn't just coming from us anymore. And we didn't want it. It wasn't about credit. We didn't want to take credit for stuff that was being sent from, Rostyk and Olesya. We wanted to acknowledge the fact that it was a bigger initiative. And so we kind of mulled some names over, and we wanted to incorporate Nadiyka into it, which means hope in English. And so we called ourselves Stream of Hopes, and or Potічок Надій in Ukrainian. And so we incorporated her name, and just to acknowledge the fact that it all started from her. And so in January, we officially called ourselves Stream of Hopes, and January 29th was our first official parcel as Stream of Hopes. And that's when we started kind of counting and accounting for officially, basically everything that we had donated financially, and because people started giving money and stuff. So yeah, since January 29th, we've been kind of running this, and
you have the numbers.
So the latest numbers are so in addition to that, sorry, I'll kind of backtrack a little bit. In April of this year, we got linked with an organization, a chapter of an organization, Canadian one, called Feed the Hungry. And they have a chapter here in Saskatoon called iMed, which basically collects all of the medical equipment from hospitals, teaching institutions, and they ship containers all over the world to about 30 countries. And through one of our contacts who volunteers for them, we got introduced to the person who runs this organization here in Saskatoon. We met with them, amazing people, amazing stuff. And, they basically indicated that it would be easier to work if we were registered as a nonprofit. And, again, it was one of those, we were getting to the point where we wanted to show people that we're for real, that we're legitimate, that we're not just a volunteer group anymore. And so we officially filed as a Saskatchewan registered nonprofit organization. The official name is Stream of Hope's Aid for Ukraine Incorporated. That's long official name, but we're still under, Stream of Hope's. And so official numbers up to today, we've shipped over 1,400 kilograms, so 1.4 tons of stuff. And this is just with efforts of local, Saskatchewan and Toronto, Greater Toronto area community. Because we come from Toronto, we have a lot of connections and friends there. We have two of our great friends, Ulyana Krupnyk and Lesya Horhota, who are helping us as well, kind of, basically aggregate all of our stuff. So, 1.4 tons, and we've collected almost $7,000 through various means. We run an online crowdfunding campaign and just, random donations.
When we put the $7,000 goal for us for this year, I was very skeptical. I was like, there's no way we're not gonna be able to reach that. But we did, and the amount of donations just keep on coming. It's maybe has trickled down a little bit. We've had some drives in Toronto. We had a clothing drive. When was it? April?
Yeah.
From Ukrainian church,
St. Joseph's Church in Oakville,
and
throughout the whole Easter,
they've donated a lot of stuff.
There was carloads, like literally carloads worth of stuff that they were bringing and sorting through and going through. So that was one.
We have a really lovely couple here that are helping us. They have no ties to Ukraine. He's out of Irish background, and she is a native and French. So. Zero ties to Ukraine, but they're very committed and
they've actually gathered the troops here. There's a small town outside of Saskatoon called Martinsville, and they lived there for a very long amount of time, and they've gathered the troops there. They were also the same. They were calling us on some of the weekends, and I was just loading my car up to the roof with stuff, and we were driving it back home and sorting through all of that. So
last biggest one, because there was a big celebration in Ukraine, the charity that we help, they had it's called Bukovyna, so Dream of Bukovyna, where they have around 1,000 kids from different orphanages. They take them to a camp in the mountains, and some of them stay for a week, and some of them just come in for that day. Each of them writes a letter with their dreams. So I would like to have a doll, and the dreams are, to Canadian kids, they probably would sound very basic. Simple. I like to have shoes. I would like to have a soccer ball. These are things that
some kids write.
Granted.
I would like to have eye surgery, or I would like to have a mom and dad.
Public takes claim. So you, as a new member of a public, you can take a claim of a specific letter and grant the wish. And so we were trying to help out on a bigger scale, and we sent 160 soccer balls.
So Saskatoon Youth Soccer Association, I approached them and I'm like, can you guys donate any soccer balls? They're like, sure, come down to our facility here in Saskatoon. I came by and I had to make 7 trips with, car loaded full of soccer balls. They donated over 175 soccer balls in total. I was deflating them for 2 weeks in my garage, and we packed them and sent them off.
Barbies, cars, we had a few families that claimed some dreams, and so we packed it all in and shipped it. So it was the biggest undertaking so far. The next one that we're aiming for is Святого Миколая, so St. Nicholas, because there's always lots of children from orphanages, and that's probably once in a year that they get to ask for something, and some of it gets granted. It's really... The situations are quite dire in Ukrainian orphanages. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't get to kids, or, it's being taken away as they're walking with it. But we know that Marta works with around 16 orphanages in Ukraine. And she has really good connections. So when she brings the stuff to the orphanage, we know that it actually gets to children, that it doesn't get taken away by people who work there. because it
we initially, again, when we were starting this, we wanted to make sure that we were helping kids that didn't get help before, because we didn't want to create another organization that's competing with someone else. So we did our due diligence. We went around and asked and looked, and this organization, again, so it's called Майбутнє України, or Future of Ukraine. It's run out of Chernivtsi by an amazing lady called Marta Levchenko, or Olesya already mentioned her. And so they have about almost over 3,000 kids that they take care of. So we're taking this on as a stream of hopes. We now are helping over 3,000 kids. So our stuff that's been going, she posts she's very social media savvy. She reports everything that she receives on parcels and money. She posts it right on Facebook. She goes to the kids, to the families. She takes pictures with the items that we send, because she relies on the diaspora so much. There's a huge community out of Luxembourg and Italy, and there's some people from Germany, and it's huge, to see how many people across the globe are helping her. So now we wanted to add Canada to the list as well, and so we've
there's us in Saskatoon and Toronto. There's another group, No Child Left Behind, in Brandon, Manitoba. There's also quite a few ladies and I guess organizations in US that are helping out, because we can because she posts all the parcels where they're coming from, you can tell who's sending and where they're coming from and who's sending what. So it's very
open and
which is very unusual for Ukrainian charity, because usually the money goes somewhere or donations go somewhere and you kind of don't see where they end up. But on a lot of occasions you can see a kid wearing the shirt that you went and bought for them. So you know that it got to the right place. Yeah. I feel like it put a lot of good attention on orphanages in Eastern Ukraine, but then it took away from the ones in Western and Central Ukraine. Because now a lot of help goes towards kids of ATO, which is great, and a lot of help goes to orphanages in Eastern Ukraine. But that doesn't change the fact that orphanages are all over Ukraine. And so
we've actually had people come to us and say, there's great stuff there. And we help out as much as we can in every possible way. But, people come to us and there's so much stuff going to the war. And, it's great to see all of that. But they feel like some of the kids, the issues, they existed before the war. They exist now. And they're going to exist after the war is done, after we finally get rid of the stuff that's happening in Ukraine and reclaim all the territories. It's going to keep on happening. So they chose to work with us because they felt that this was something that maybe wasn't on the forefront of some people's minds anymore, because they were so focused on ensuring that the soldiers and their families and kids are supported through this endeavor. So I think they were saying statistically there's over 95,000 from what I heard.
I can't even, it's conversation where you start crying.
We're at the point that we sometimes get posts and see pictures where we literally sit and we both of us shed a tear just because of how horrible the situations
are. For kids with disabilities, it's very bad. They're being treated like they're just not wanted by anybody. We recently saw a picture of the food that they give in a specific orphanage, and they're eating out of plates that
like the metal bowls that they give in the jails.
And the food on a plate is, I wouldn't feed it to my dogs. It's just not appealing. It doesn't look very nutritious. It doesn't, and that's what they see on a daily basis. They're being mistreated. There's a lot of donations that are being taken away through the back door, especially food-wise. So let's say yogurts are being donated, and then we've talked to Marta, and
sometimes kids don't even see those.
They've never seen a yogurt in their life. They've never ate a banana in their life. They've never seen a chicken in their life. So they never tried. This is, I don't know how you go through life and you're 14 and you've never tried chicken.
And so we've also been, as we've been growing through this process, we've started seeing some of the really, people who take initiative in Ukraine and who take this upon themselves to start making the system change, because it is I think it's a very, long process of making sure that the culture within not only the orphanages, but how the society perceives, kids with disabilities or kids who are born with I don't know, with something that maybe the parents don't really like or appreciate, and parents just kind of, I think parents are also instigated to sometimes give up those kids. We've heard, again, this is something, we both come from Ukraine, but we've never been exposed to it from that perspective. But through the stories, we've heard that doctors are encouraging and suggesting for parents to give up their kids in the hospitals because, that's the realities. And, the kid will have a better life. But that's not, we've lived in Canada now for long enough where that's not acceptable to us anymore. That's not the social standard here. And why is it all of a sudden still acceptable there? So we've tried to be a little bit of an agent of change as well, as much as we can from our avenues and our networks, and trying to not only help through donations, but now start helping through what can we do more? Who can we link with that can be that change agent, either here in Canada or in Ukraine or elsewhere, that can inspire some of those things? So
we would love to adopt. And we have a kid. We would love to adopt. There is, but the problem is there's a huge amount of paperwork. It takes forever, and it costs. The cost of adopting from Ukraine is between $10,000 to $20,000.
From Ukrainian side. And I think in reality, this is from what we've heard. We've heard that it sometimes can be up to 2 or 3 years that it takes for someone to get, access to a child. And so we've had people, who are even non-Ukrainians come up to us and say, well, why don't just people, even the ones who can afford the $20,000, why can't they just adopt? And it's just because the reality is that it's not as easy of a process to just let go of that kid. It seems like somehow, because you have to understand, every kid in the orphanage has some kind of government money attached to the child as a pension or as support for the orphanage. So the more the orphanage receives, the more again, it's a system that's been kind of, I think, perpetually growing into a not well-functioning system from the orphanage side. And I think the problem
is that for a parent, even though they've given up their child, there's the whole process to go through to give up their child. There's a lot of parents whose kids are in orphanages for years, but they still count
as their parents. So unless the parents on paper signs the paper that I'm giving up my child officially, they're still considered their parents. So orphanage or an adoption agency cannot take any of those kids on.
And some of it, the last time I checked, there's only specific age you can adopt. So after 5 years and up, well, the 5 years that the child spends in the orphanage leaves quite a bit of mark. And I don't know, I just don't understand, why can't you adopt a little baby? Why do you have to wait 5 years for that child to be eligible to be adopted? It's just the process is so tedious and long and expensive that there's lots and lots of families, I'm sure, across Canada that would love to adopt a child from Ukraine, but it's unattainable at that moment.
At least from what we can hear and see.
And it involves going to Ukraine for 8 weeks. So for a working family, it's kind of hard to get 8 weeks off to go.
Throughout this whole, we wanted to also say, throughout this whole process, as tough as it's been to see some of the hurt, we've experienced the most generous, the most amazing experiences of goodness. It's one of those, Olesya put it well, she's like, it gives you hope that things are going to be okay, that things aren't as the world isn't all crazy, that things around us are good, and when people really see the things that you're doing, we've experienced amazing stuff. Just to give you an example of how our parcels get to Ukraine, we have a friend that drives our parcels from Saskatoon to Regina, every week, passes them on to another friend, who then gives it to a friend who drives from Toronto to Calgary every week, who picks up our parcels for free, drops them off in Toronto to our friends, who then take it to Meast. Meast has been amazing with us. They've given us a great discount. We pay, minimal amounts for shipping, and we basically ship everything through Meast on a weekly basis, and it gets to Ukraine in 4 weeks by ship. We haven't lost a parcel. We haven't lost, everything's just been amazing. So the people around us have been, we have drop-off locations. There's two Ukrainian stores here in Saskatoon called Smak and Slavyanka. They both have offered to have drop-off locations at their stores so that people can have an easier access to just kind of go there and drop off stuff. We have drop-off locations with Kantor in Toronto. We have a drop-off at St. Demetrius branch of Ukrainian Credit Union in Toronto. So we've tried to create as many avenues as possible for people to help out and to have it easier.
It's been amazing to actually see it happen. It kind of blows you out of the water because you don't expect it. You usually just go and buy something nice for Ukrainian child, and you're like, okay, I'm just gonna go buy something. It's been really bad day. I've seen like just horrible stories, but I'm just gonna go buy that little kid a onesie because you know what? It's not gonna fix his life situation. It's not gonna make it,
life-changing,
much better. Yeah. But it might make a little bit of a difference where he's not gonna be cold anymore, or he's gonna be comfortable. So I think
it's one of those things you see, like what we do is we either go to a store
and buy a toy
and just buy a toy, or we actually just, write something on Facebook and we decide that, you know what, this week we're going to collect baby food, and that's what we're going to do. And whoever wants to, maybe instead of going to Tim Hortons that day and spending $5 on a coffee or breakfast sandwich, they'll go and they'll buy, 5 packets of yogurt or whatever. It doesn't, so it's not going to make or break us. But in reality, those things, when we send, sometimes we send like 127 packets of little pouches of food. And you see them once Marta brings them to the family or to the kids, and they sit around and just eat it. It's like we as soon as the parcel arrives in Ukraine, we sit here kind of joyful, and we send. We also have a Facebook page, and on Facebook page we post everything as well. And we just give everybody updates saying, hey, our parcels have arrived again and again and again. And you have to look at the positives. There's too many negatives it will bring you down. And in reality is sometimes, like Olesya said, Marta will post something because, of the time difference. She will post something. We'll sit during lunch and we'll check on the status of it, and we'll just cry. We'll sit there and we'll cry because it's very hard to hold those emotions. But it's okay to express those because we're all human beings and we all see the hurt, and it's okay to express that hurt. Maybe we take a little bit of it away from somebody else, but we try to express everybody else's desire to help through the organization. So, and
we know that we can't help everybody. That's not the point of the group, but there's
one step at a time.
And when you see kids being happy with the things that have been put together by a whole bunch of people that, it took so long to get to Ukraine because 4 weeks is long. And by that time you forgot what you've packed. I used to know what every package used to have. I lost count because there's just so much stuff. But then you see this bits and pieces that you remembered, and you're like, oh my God, look, they liked it. They liked the toy. And look, they're wearing that shirt that we picked out. That's what kind of, and they're happy and they're smiling and they're enjoying it.
There's now hundreds of people that are, like literally hundreds of people that are attached to Stream of Hopes. And, we keep on telling everybody that we couldn't do this without them. We were, that's why we're a group of individuals. That's why we're an organization, is because we now feel, and you use that metaphor, we now feel like that stream has turned into a really strong river in a very short amount of time, and we're here to stay. And that's why we wanted to show people that, A, we're legitimate, and B, we're here. We want to make sure that we're growing, and we're growing kind of with the intent of helping as many as we can through whatever means and avenues that we can. I'll give you an example also. St. Demetrius School. My mom teaches there, and they heard about us, and those kids were amazing. For a month, they had drives. They had a couple of Cities Day where kids could bring a donation, and they could wear regular street clothes without having to wear uniforms. So in a month, they've collected over $950 just as a school of 220 students and teachers. So we're, again, extremely thankful to the school and the administrative staff and everybody who's a parent, who's a student there for doing that, because it was a huge help. We sent that to the Bukovyna Mria. That helped to pay for a rental of the big tent for a week. That helped to feed over 1,000 kids. That was a tremendous help when you converted into Ukrainian hryvnia. And so
I don't think we've even tried approaching.
Well, in reality, I think because we're also not a registered charity. We couldn't afford to register a charity. We as a
about $10,000.
About $10,000 in 2 years, yeah. Yeah.
If you want
well, you have to have a good lawyer, and that's the cost.
2 years. If you want to take a really long time, it might be cheaper. But if you want to do it,
we've had friends who went through a process of registering, and it's been a very long process for them. So we just couldn't afford, as a family, we were paying from our own pocket for majority of the things until people started donating money. So we figured, we can't write tax receipts, but people who want to donate, we've never been once asked for a tax receipt. We've had, individuals and now organizations. We're starting to approach local businesses, and we're really trying to take it step by step logistically on how can we make this sustainable, because it is sustainable. We can only send as many parcels as we have the dollars to pay for it. We've sent over $3,000 in direct help, financial help to Ukraine, where it was the money was used for paying for surgeries, to paying for rehabilitation, to paying for a stay for a mom and their kid when they
buying a TV in the hospital for kids that had no TV, and the kids
were staring at a wall, for the whole day.
Entertainment, and the whole day they were in a hospital room with nothing to do. And it's simple thing as a TV, but at least they can occupy themselves at least a little bit. It's a cancer wing of the hospital, so they don't have a lot of fun time there. So it's tiny little things like that.
We bought a goat for a family. It's whatever. But that goat now produces milk that feeds the 4 or 5 kids that they have. So
it's a continuous wish list of children's clothes, food, formula, medication, toys.
And kids, we mean so the orphanages are usually newborn to 18 years old, and then there's the orphanages for kids with disabilities, and those kids live there for their whole lives. So it's literally from newborn to adult clothes. But we've been trying to send mostly kids clothes, mostly up to 10 or 14 years old, and it's we ask individuals for gently used clothes. Sometimes people have different definitions of what that means. We prefer new. It's one of those things when you think of an orphanage and when you think of them having nothing, do you think of sending them something
all they've ever had was somebody else's clothes? It would be so nice if at least once they would have something that's brand new. I don't know. I don't think it doesn't have to be a full wardrobe, but
it's I have to say it's crazy how I as a husband and a male, when you discover these sales that exist all over. We went to Old Navy for Christmas, and they had we bought stuff for 75 cents, for 59 cents, for 45 cents. We spent maybe $50, and we brought back home bags and bags and bags of new clothes, and we just picked everything off the shelf. We didn't choose, size, because they will find us the kid that the clothes will fit. So for us, it was more, we look for sales, and we go to Toys R Us, and we're like, oh, something's on, Barbies are on sale for $3. Let's get 10 of them.
Just the social services in Ukraine, the lack of social services in Ukraine, the lack of help, poor families that they don't have access. Ukraine has cut off a lot of funding to single moms, to families of low income. So these families were in a dire situation before, and then now they're even in a more dire situation. The treatment of disabled kids with disabilities, just the attitude that, they're tossed aside, they're unwanted in society, they're just being put behind. It's like a prison. They're put behind almost like bars.
Sometimes it's more like a zoo, because there's sometimes, the media makes this extravagant thing about kids with disabilities, and they put them on display as these.
They never leave the orphanage. They have no idea what life is outside of orphanage, and then they're kicked out at 18.
At 18.
And they're supposed to go and know how to make money, how to pay for food, how to go and have education. A lot of them, they're so uneducated because they've been given up on. Well, they just call them stupid. You don't need to educate, especially kids with disabilities. They don't need education. Why? They're never going to be functioning member of the society. Just the sheer attitude of social services and Ukrainians in general, that they don't give these children a chance. They don't see them as full functioning members of society, and they are future of Ukraine. They're future of Ukraine, and they might not have parents, but they still need support.
And we're speaking again from the experience that I immigrated when I was 13 years old. So I went to high school, I went to university, and I remember every single class that I had, we had someone with a disability and being a part of our classroom, being a part of this was just the norm. To us, it was like, those were our friends, those are our friends. And to see now how, we moved away from that, and we didn't experience that much. And to see that now, how those kids are being mistreated and how those kids are being perceived, it's hurtful. And that's the most frustrating part, is just, as a father or as a husband, you also have a lot of responsibilities on yourself, just as the mother does. And, to just pick up and leave because you don't like the way your kid looks or the way your kid, yells or whatever, and just leaves. And just leaves the mother and with a kid, that's a bigger picture. There just needs to be a change in attitude, change in education somehow. We're missing something. There's some gap in education of boys that it's okay for them to abandon family and walk away and go find a different, better family that doesn't have any problems. And so we're not generalizing. It's just from what we're seeing from the orphanage side, from, why are the kids being left away? There's a ton of, single moms that we work with as well. And that's the reality that they experience, is that they have to take, thank God that they don't leave those kids by themselves, and those mothers are actually taking care of the kids. But
right now, a single mom gets 140 hryvnias, which I don't know even want to convert into dollars.
It's like $12 a month.
The can of baby formula is about 240 hryvnias. So how is she supposed to survive? On what? And she can't put a baby into kindergarten until they're 2. So where does she go? She's given birth. She might be able to get into a center for single moms until the baby's 1, and then they kick her out.
I think that when the baby's 16 months or something like that. So there's a gap now, even with that, where like for 6 months or for 8 months, that mother really can't.
She has nowhere to go.
She can't stay in the center for young moms, and she can't put the kid in daycare. So there's for 6 to 8 months, they have to find a place to live or a way to function. And so
what's the easiest way? And the only solution is to put your child into orphanage, because now you can go to work and your child has somewhere to be and somewhere to live, and they have a roof over their head and they have food in their mouth. So it's better than living on a street. So a lot of moms a lot of parents are forced to give up their children because they just can't afford financially to take care, because government is not providing them with avenues or social services to help them out.
Interestingly, and I don't know whether this is something that can be done or not. We've been mulling this over with a few individuals kind of across the globe and discussing exactly what you're saying. And one of the things that we've been kind of just talking about is, the doctors that have been going from Canada now, I think the 4th or 5th time, and, doing the working in the military hospital in Kyiv and doing all the amazing work. We saw that documentary. We were sitting there just bawling to see those, the emotions that go into when people are really genuinely there to help out. We were thinking of, what if there was some kind of a system of, sending psychiatrists and people who work with children and people who work in social services on those kinds of, activities, basically educating it, because in reality, you can't just go in there and say, we're going to revamp the system of orphanages and everything, how it works. And, it's going to now be perfect. It's through the process of learning what's best out there and how can you apply to whatever you're doing. So maybe those individuals who have been through the better experiences of, dealing with kids and social services and orphanages can go and educate those individuals who have been stuck in this kind of unilateral system that doesn't change, and just go in there and say, look, this is what we learned and this is how you can apply it. And then maybe down the road, those 16 orphanages or whatever it is, in specific regions can form their own groups, and then they can work together, and then they can decide of, maybe it's something works for you, something works for me. Maybe it's actually the infrastructure that needs to be changed that will make things better. Maybe we'll need to install an elevator because, kids can't get down the stairs if they're in a wheelchair. Those are the things that really need to be put to question. It's not about, somebody will send an inspector and, someone in the orphanage will know that the inspector is coming, so everything will be nice and peachy and amazing. The inspector will leave and then everything will return back to normal. It's really, I think, that instigator of change. And so we've been discussing that maybe that's an avenue to explore. And we've been kind of, exploring it from what can we do. So we had, when was it, Friday? The honorable ambassador from Ukraine to Canada, Nadiyka Levchenko, was visiting Saskatoon, and I managed to be able to talk to him a little bit. And there's what's his title? Mykola Kuleba. He is the kind of the honorary
Уповноважений прав дитини на Україні. So I'm not sure how.
Yeah, so he's kind of responsible for kids' rights in Ukraine, who's been kind of indicted by the president, and so he's really taken on some of those initiatives. So I think you need more individuals.
And he is trying to reform the system, just the orphanage system, because it is a failing old system back from USSR that's no longer working. Because it's spitting out thousands of kids every year that are socially incapable of integrating because they've never seen society, because they have been cooped up in orphanages. So he is trying to reform it. Reforms take really long time. It doesn't happen overnight. You can't just say, hey, no more orphanages now, let's find foster families for thousands of kids. It doesn't work like that, but he is really trying. I think it's just providing him with maybe some help from Canada with different options and people who have education in that area who can provide ideas of how we can reform the system. That it's not just Ukrainians reforming it, but people outside of Ukraine who have tried the foster system, who know, what's good and what's bad about Canadian foster system, that they can help out Ukraine with just reforming their system for orphanages. I think if we can do that, that would be great.
And we also, nowadays we live in the reality, regardless whether you're in Ukraine or Canada or anywhere in the globe, that we're inspired to make money, to make a living. But there's no means for those kids to understand how do they make money. There's no businesses that will kind of take them for an internship for, a few months or whatever and say, hey, come to us and we'll teach you the administrative side of things, or the construction or trades or whatever it is that the business is doing. There's opportunities from that side as well, as where there are orphanages where there are some organizations that work with them that take on some of the older kids. And, some of the kids we've seen, they're extremely talented. They make artwork and beadwork and they knit, and they're smart individuals who have the capacity to learn and advance. And it's just, they're not given that opportunity they're told that you live in a world that is material sometimes, that is, we need to make a living, but yet they're not given with that opportunity to make a living. So that when they're 18 and they're no longer living in the orphanage, they now live in a society that is driven by that, but they really don't have any means
of... The suicide rate of children outside of orphanage when they leave is extremely high in Ukraine. And nobody wants to talk about it, but it's extremely high. And as soon as they leave, they just lost. They just have no idea how to live. Some of them, he's 21. He's been to a store twice in his life. He's not twice to a store. So how do we expect this individual to come out of orphanage and go and live a life when he's been to a store twice? Huge depression.
Crime, yeah. Interestingly that you brought this up. Just a couple of days ago, I think last Thursday, I linked up with, I don't know if you know, his stage name is Artisto. His full name is Rostislav Bomey. He wrote the song called Revolution Ukraine during Euromaidan. It kind of became the anthem of Maidan. It was, I think it goes like, what does it go? Ще не вмерла Україна, на 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 на. So he wrote that song. So we connected. He saw some of the stuff that we were doing, and he's now wanting to work together. He's working on a project exactly what you were talking about. He's trying to bring music to orphanages and to these kids who live in the correctional institutions. And so basically what he's doing is he's going to them and he's basically saying, here's the word peace. What does that mean to you? And so he's gathering all the feedback from the kids, and then he goes back and he writes music based on those kids' stories. And so he's now in the process of trying to work on putting together an album that's going to be helping, express the names and the words and the messages of the kids. And we've chatted, and he's like, you guys are doing amazing stuff. Maybe I can include some of the orphanages that you're working with and visit them. So we're now starting to collaborate and elaborate on how we can maybe help out with his project. And we suggested, hey, why don't we do a message from Canadian kids to Ukrainian kids, and we will go to the Canadian schools and say, hey, what does peace in Ukraine mean to you? And they will provide him with statements, and he will write a song based on their behalf, what they would say to the Ukrainian kids. So,
but in the correctional facilities for young individuals, it's really high population is, they're graduates of orphanages.
Orphanages, yeah.
They're forced into crime because that's the only way they can survive. And so then they're thrown back into a different institution now where it's not any better, although, the one that I watched the video, the one that he visited, it looks better than some of the orphanages, the correctional facility. So it's from one institution to the next, and once they're out, I'm pretty sure a lot of them recommit the crime and then they're back. So it's just a vicious cycle of they just can't get out of this.
And although some of them want to really badly, listening to the artisto talk to them and some of the messages that he's bringing, the kids in front of him are it's amazing because he has this way of connecting with kids, and they use him as a psychiatrist. They tell him the things that they feel, and that's exactly bringing to the point of what you were saying and what we've been discussing, is that they need someone who will sit there and listen. They need someone who will sit there and love. That we feel like we're bringing love to these kids that they might not have had before through some of the things, because that's the only way that we can connect with them. We might never see that child ever in their lives. They might not know who we are, but we connect on that little tiny thing, and that to them is more love than what they're receiving currently, or from the surroundings that they're in. So we as human beings, we strive for that hug, that factor of love and caring, and it's required, it's needed in those kinds of institutions. One of the things that we really want to do this fall is do a kind of a fundraiser / fashion show. We've been working. There's a girl from Saskatoon who is a finalist in the Miss Ukrainian Canada. Her name is Irena Zhitaryuk, and so we're working with her now, and we're hoping she's a designer by trade. And so she wanted to work with our organization and doing a showcase of her fashion. And there's a couple of girls that you've interviewed, Emma and Emma Nahailo and Irena Matsuk, who run Yuki Boutique. So they have a whole bunch of stuff that they can showcase. And we thought that, hey, why not have an entertaining kind of factor and do a fashion show, and then have a silent auction maybe on raising some of the funds. We really are. One of our goals is to strive to be maintaining our organization from the point of not only to have enough money to pay for the parcels, but to actually have some kind of an initiative that is instigated by the group, because we now have a board of directors that we report to. It's very kind of cool and nice and official. So we want to instigate a project that maybe the Stream of Hopes wants to instigate, and be able to fund that and be able to grow that, whether it's through supporting financially or other avenues. And then the other thing is we
would really love to, connecting with iMed, one of the hopes is to collect enough medical equipment to fill a whole container and ship it to Ukraine. It would be amazing if we could do it. We going through their warehouse. It's like a big shopping mall, because you pick, and you're like, oh my god, they need all
of these things would be so great. You look at, they have incubators for babies, and
just everything that hospital will require. And knowing how poor Ukrainian hospitals are, it would be great if we could collect a whole shipping container and ship it to Ukraine.
Specifically for children's hospitals, yeah. So that's the other initiative, is that we're hoping that maybe this year, and if not, maybe that's going to be our big project for next year, is to raise the equipment and to raise the funds to be able to ship a full 40-foot container to outfit the children's hospitals, at least in some of the regions of Ukraine. When you register as an organization, you're given a choice as a nonprofit of having a minimum of 2 board members, and that can be basically us. We chose to go the extreme route, and so we have 9 people on our board of directors that we really are, they're really invested. They really are interested in seeing this nonprofit grow, and we're hoping that we can utilize our collective talents and our collective, thinking hats, and to really drive everything forward. And again, have 7 other individuals that we're now accountable to, that we have to report to, that we have to, basically say, hey, yeah, this is where the money went, and this is where those things are going.
And on a part of Ukraine, because, once it leaves Canada, where does it really go? There've been a lot of Ukrainian Canadians, American Ukrainians that have gone to Ukraine. They've met Marta. They've gone with Marta through different families. They've distributed some of the donations, and they came back, and I've talked to some of these people over Skype. Some of them, there's a lady in Brandon, Manitoba that, she's right next door. They've witnessed it. So, and they've seen the firsthand that it actually does get there, that it does get distributed to the families, the dire situation that some of these families are, especially in the mountainous region. When you look through some of the pictures, you're like, oh my God, is this Ukraine? Does this really still exist? Because it looks like a hut that doesn't have electricity. People live in there.
Yeah, ground instead, just soil instead of a floor.
So we've had enough people who've met Marta in person. She's not, a fictitious person. She really, and that's why she's on social media so much, because she really wants to show everybody that it's transparent.
She wants to be a different Ukrainian nonprofit.
We're not hiding behind anything. If anyone has a question, she gives her real name. She gives her personal phone number. If you ever have a question, anyone can call her. It doesn't have to, you don't have to ever go through us. You can just give her a call directly.
Yeah.
She provides real names of people that she's helping. You can contact the person that say you want to send money to a specific family.
You don't have to send through her. You can send it to them.
You can send through them. You can call them. She'll give you their phone number. You can call them and ask them whether they got the money or whether they got donations. So, and a lot of those people are now on social media as well, and so they can attest for all the things that have been done for them. So
I think, we now live in a world where there's so much stuff happening. If something was happening that was out of
and we have everyone has their doubts at the beginning. We are from Ukraine. We know what it's like. We've seen some of the charities. Even Marta says it takes 10 minutes to open up a charity in Ukraine. It's not a long process like it is in Canada. Anyone can do it. And so we did our due diligence and checked and rechecked, because you're always like, well, what if we're being scammed? What if this is not true? But again, we've done our work on that part, and I'm Ukrainian, and I can be confident that I believe her. You as Ukrainian, you're very skeptical because you know what it's like, but I do believe her. And if somebody doesn't, then they don't. Like, we don't
try to force anything on anybody. And that's the thing about us, is that, people have their own choices, and we chose to do this not for anybody, not for anything, not for us. We chose to do this because we wanted to make a difference. And if somebody wants to take a ride with us along on this path and, be part of it, then amazing.
There's people in Saskatoon, like Irena from, who's,
Yuki Boutique.
No, Irena
Zhitaryuk.
She actually knows Marta. She's from Chernivtsi. Her sister knows her. So it's not like, it's this fictitious person that no one has ever met. There's people in Saskatoon that I've talked to that know her. So they know of the organization and what it does. And
on an additional note, we know that as we grow, we probably have a little bit of, the administrative side of things and whatever. But right now, everything administrative related goes out of our pocket. Right now, everything, if you donate $50, that $50 plus whatever service fees, it goes directly to the individual. It goes directly transferred. If it's transferred through PayPal or whatever, it goes through that. We don't take, for printing of posters or whatever, there's nothing that we charge to the Stream of Hopes. We just take it right now. We take it from our own pockets. So we're trying to utilize the nonprofit with as little administrative incurred costs as we can, so that if you're donating a specific amount, that amount goes to that child. It's not 10% or 15 or 30 or 50 or whatever the amount is. So the best way to help is we have our own website. It's www.streamofhopes.ca. Everything on there is updated on a daily basis. There's a donate button that goes straight to our crowdfunding. It's all throughout the website. There's links to our Facebook page. The Facebook page is a lot more detailed because we just don't want to overload the website with daily things. Facebook page is kind of the day-to-day reporting. I write news stories on the website on a weekly basis, sometime on a monthly basis, depending on how many stories we have. Post pictures and videos, and it's just basically who we are, what we're doing. It has
information on a drop-off location, so if somebody wants to make a physical donation of clothes or food, it tells you.
The website has access to all of the drop-off locations in GTA and Saskatoon right now.
But good kind of crap, not like crap that you would not. Because I go through everything. I go through all the donations, and if it's really bad, it's not going to Ukraine, because people might be poor, but they still have decency. So go into your house, take your kids' clothes that has been sitting in those boxes that your children are no longer going to wear because they have grown out of them, wash them, put them nicely in boxes, and take them to drop-off locations. Next time you're at Tim Hortons, maybe don't buy that breakfast sandwich, but go to a store and buy a box of baby cereal. It really is $4.50. But if each person buys that cereal, that's a lot of boxes, and that feeds a lot of children. Sometimes, most of the time, that's the only food they're going to have. They don't have vegetables. They don't have fruits. But at least they will have enough food that it will sustain them throughout the day. It doesn't cost a lot. For $50, I think pretty much everyone can afford for $50. So if that's all you can do, that's more than enough.
And spread the word. That's the biggest thing we rely on, is let other individuals know that we're around. Let other individuals know who we are, what we stand for, and just learn about the things that are happening. Learn about the things that we're trying to achieve. There's only that much that we can do through every possible avenue that we're trying to do, and we rely on that snowball effect. That's been working for us really well. Is individuals who have worked with us really trust us, and that's been going really well. And we are who we are. We are a young family. We have integrity and respect, and we. Again, we don't have a self-serving purpose in any of this. This is a much greater thing that we're trying to do.
We truly just enjoy seeing the things get to Ukraine, and kids love it. That's the biggest. It might be the reason why you buy some of the stuff, because you just want to see the happiness on their face. If that's bad, then sure, I'll keep on doing that then.
We really, really appreciate it.
We're not you don't have to rush.
It's amazing. Again, talking to you, it's one of those things, you try to get the word out, and we really appreciate the time
and the questions.
And the
these
questions.
Are the questions we get all the time. I stand behind my comments.
We're speaking from the heart. We really do. So, for sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
Evening.
Bye-bye.